They drag his ass to the shower and they beat him up and they leave him there. Nobody's gonna help him, man. Nobody. In prison, it's three rules. That's the first thing they tell you when you go to prison, especially to a maximum security prison. They tell you, look, you don't see nothing, you don't hear nothing, and you don't know nothing. My real name is Estabbon, and I did time in 5 federal prisons. They give me this is my first offense. I never done nothing in my life. I got caught with drugs and guns and conspiracy. And they give me 235 months in federal prison. I did 15 years straight. They sent me to 5 different prisons. I went to Indiana. I went to Illinois. I went to West Virginia. I went to South Carolina. And then I went to Florida.
Where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in Minnesota, St. Paul, Minnesota, Twin Cities.
How was life down there?
It was great. Minnesota's beautiful.
Suburbs, or were you in like the ghetto?
I grew up in the ghetto.
What led you to the streets at a young age?
High school. I went to high school. I met a lot of homies, friends, game banging homies that they introduced me to another homies, and that's how I got into the streets.
So you joined a gang at a young age.
I wasn't in the game, but I was kicking it with them. I like more like money, and like I was dressing like, I'm Mexican, so I like to dress with like cowboy hats, cowboy boots, and everything, like. But I like the other side, like money, trucks, gold, girls, you know what I mean? But I was kicking it with the game members. Basically, I was kind of like affiliated to them, but I wasn't in the game,
Wait, and what gang was it?
It's in St. Paul. It calls BFL, which it means like Brown for Life. But I was kicking it with the BFL. I was kicking it with the Surenos. I was kicking it with the Latin Kings because I was selling them some dope. I've seen a whole bunch of games, Bloods, Crips, Asian, Philippines. I see a whole bunch of.
You got any crazy stories that you seen in the streets before prison?
I do, but I'm not gonna say names. But yeah, I've seen a lot of stupid shit. Homies getting drinking. We coming out of the club, and another guys pull up in the car and start talking shit. My homie just pulled the gun, start blasting, start shooting, and then some stupid shit. I was 17, 18. I'm 42 right now. So back then I was, 16, 17, 18.
And they were kind of like your role models growing up, right?
Yeah, they was older than me. They were like 19, 20, 22.
Do you think your parents could have did something different to keep you out of that life?
Nah, my mom, my dad, I grew up with my mother. So it was just me and her. So like she found some guns in my room. She found some weed in my room. She found some drugs in my room. And you know how the Mexicans' mom are, like she beat my ass and everything, but she couldn't change me.
Do you think not having a father there like made the situation worse?
Maybe because if you got your parents more like, like they put rules in the house and everything, maybe I don't know.
Tell the whole story how you got arrested. What went wrong from the beginning?
I was already dealing drugs, and then I went to jail for 180 days.
How'd they catch you?
I got an argument with my girl. The neighbors called the cops. They came. They put me in jail for 190 days. But it was like county. So basically, you do like 90. I did 90 days. I came out, but in there, I met some guys. Some Indian dudes, some white dudes, and some black dudes. I met them in there. So when I came out, then we switched numbers. So one of the Indian dudes, we started talking, and he wanna buy some pounds. Some pounds of meth. And these motherfuckers were selling the fucking pounds to a fucking to a federal agent, and I didn't know that he was selling it to him. So he was coming and buy it from me, and was selling it to the fucking federal agent.
Damn! So somebody else got you caught up.
Yes, yeah, because I was doing it for years, and I was good, until I met that dude. And back then I was driving I think it was a 2010 Charger. It was red, and it was fucking like, you see it and you can see right away like, oh, this motherfucker is doing something. So when the fucking feds seen the car, they put a tail on me and they start chasing, like not chasing me, but they was
scoping you out.
Yeah, and that's how I got caught off on this bullshit.
So the day that everything happened, how did it all happen? What were you doing?
The Indian dude called me. He said that he needed something, and he met me at Walmart. I was like, all right, give me 2 hours. I was going on my way to Walmart, but on the highway, I got pulled over by the highway patrol.
And what was going through your mind when they pulled you over?
Yeah, I'm good. What can they do? Just give me a fucking ticket. I don't got shit on me. I had it, but it was hiding. So I was like, what can they do? Just give me a fucking ticket for suspended license, and I'm good, So when I handled the cop, my ID and my insurance, he just twisted my arm and pulled me out of the car. When I look back, it was like in 20 squad cars. Yeah, that's how I got busted. And then the federal agent, he was a DEA agent. So he looked at me, he like, what's up, man? You know me? And I was like, fuck yeah. He's like, I'm a cop. And then he told me, he said, who's in your house? I was like, nobody. He's like, come on, we know who's in your house. You got your baby and your girl in there. And he's like, you got something in there? I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. He's like, give me the key so I can go in there. I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. He's like, oh, you ain't gonna say shit? I was like, I don't know what he's talking about, man. So he put the handcuffs on me and he's like, all right. So they take me to the county. They ran to the house. They opened the door and they found guns, drugs, weed, a lot of shit.
So what was going through your mind when you were going into the county jail after all that happened?
I told myself, I'm gonna go to prison. But I was thinking like 5 years, 7 years. Like, I'm gonna go to prison 5 years, 7 years. You know, I'm good. I can do 5 years. I don't give a you know.
How much time were you actually facing?
I was facing 10 to life in prison, in federal prison.
What kind of things did you see in the jailhouse? Not prison, but the jail.
A whole bunch of gangs, Surenos, Indians, black people, Mexican people, white people. In jail is another world. It's not like over here. Like in jail is another world. Like a lot of people don't know, but I think it's the underground, kind of like the underground, you know?
So by this time, were you gang affiliated by this time?
Nah, just a normal guy dealing drugs, you know? I knew people, but when you get in the county, like it's a game that he calls, it's a Mexican game that he calls Pisas. You know, Paisa 16. This is a prison in a jail game. It's not a street game. It's just in jail or prison. So as soon as you go to jail, they in there. They approach you because I'm Mexican. You know, I'm Hispanic. So they approach me. Hey, what's up? Who you run with? Like, are you in the game? I was like, nah, man. I'm just a father and I got my family. You know, why you here? I'm selling drugs and I got busted. He's like, all right. So you're gonna come with us and you're gonna run with us.
So you ended up being a Pisces.
I ended up being a Paisa. Yes.
You got any stories that you've seen in jail?
I seen a lot of white dudes that they don't know nothing. They were taking their food. Every time they go to the commissary, they run in the room and they take everything. I couldn't do nothing. They can't do shit. What can you do? It's only one cop in the unit. It's like 120 inmates in one unit. So it's one cop. He don't pay attention to all of us. You know what I mean?
Did you do anything wrong for that to happen?
The only reason is because the white dude, he didn't run with nobody. He was by himself. So, you know, all the people take advantage of that and just went in there and take their shit.
So you finally get your time and you're going to prison. What prison do you end up hitting?
They sent me to a fucking USP, to a maximum security federal prison. I was like, what the fuck? I never been in prison in my life. How you gonna send me to a fucking USP? Because I heard a lot of stories, you know, like, oh shit, like in the maximum prisons, they kill people, they, you know, rape people, they do a lot of stupid shit. So I'm gonna tell you the truth. I wasn't scared, but I was nervous. I was like, fuck, man, where these dudes are sending me, you know? Terror Hub USP. I went there in 2012. Back then, that prison, it was active. It was an active prison. Now it's a dropout prison. Dropout means like rapists, chomos can be in there. Back when it's active, your papers gotta be straight, or you're gonna get killed, or you're gonna get beat up, or something's gonna happen to you. You know, it depends what you're doing.
So how many people did you actually see die in prison?
Man, in these 15 years, I've seen a lot of people die. But my first time when I went in there, I seen a white dude that he was a child molester in the state, you know. So he caught another charge. He caught a fed charge, and he lied to his people, saying like, "Oh, I don't got shit, you know. I've been good, so this is my charge." So he was good, and his people find out. I don't know how they find out. Man, they killed that dude. Man, they went in his cell, beat his ass down. They drag his ass to the shower, and they beat him up, and they break his neck, and they leave him there. Nobody's gonna help him, man. Nobody. In prison, it's 3 rules. That's the first thing they tell you when you go to prison, especially to a maximum security prison. They tell you, look, you don't see nothing, you don't hear nothing, and you don't know nothing. That's the rules. And I was like, all right. Well, that surprised me because they dragged him. They went in the cell, beat him up. It was 3 guys, 3 white dudes. I think it was the Aryan Brotherhood. So they went in there, they grabbed him, beat him up. They dragged his ass like a block to the shower. Like half a block, man. It's like half a block. Like they drive him to the shower because the showers are separate from the cells, and they put him in there. They beat that shit out of him. They stomp him and they break his neck and they leave him there. And in the prison, every 30 minutes, the guards do the rounds. Every 30 minutes. So when they do that, when the 30 minutes pass and they do the round, they follow the blood and they find the dude in the shower. everybody knew what's gonna happen. Only the cops didn't know what was gonna happen. That's the thing about the active prison. When it's an active prison, everybody's active. It means like nobody's gonna say shit. You know, like if something's gonna happen, if we're gonna put some work to one of my homies, we tell the other people, hey, listen, something's gonna happen. You know, take a shower, grab your eyes, whatever you call your family, whatever you want to do.
How big is respect in prison?
Whew, that's the number one rule in prison.
Uh,
You gotta respect the other people.
When you was in there, were you in a cell or was it open dorms?
Nah, a cell, a two-man cell.
And how is it living with another man that you don't even know?
You gotta get used to it, but you put some rules too. Like if you get first in that cell is yours. So if another inmate is coming in, you tell him the rules. Like, look, bro, you gotta sit down with your piece. A lot of people get mad because they be like, I'm not a fucking female, like, that's your cell. So when somebody come into your cell, then you tell him the rules. Like, look, bro, I know you're not a female. You gotta say with respect. I know you're not a female. We all men, but this is a small cell. So if you piece standing up, all the piece gonna go all over the floor, all over the wall, and you're not gonna fucking clean it, right? And that shit stinks. So like, you gotta sit down when you piece. You can fart. If you fart, you gotta sit on the toilet and flush it. When I'm eating, you gotta let me eat. When you brush your teeth, you can't spit on the sink. You gotta spit on the toilet. Why in the sink? Because the sink is kind of like we wash some food in there. Like you can't be spitting in the sink. You know what I mean? Shit like that. Which when I got in there and they start telling me these rules, I was like, man, what the fuck? I'm a man. You can't tell me what to do. I got mad, but some people learned the hard way. You know what I mean?
Did you ever see people lose all their respect?
The only way you lose all your respect if somebody call you a bitch and you don't do shit. Yeah, I seen that.
What happened?
Shit, you gotta fight. Even if it's like five dudes against you, you gotta go. Or your own people is gonna you ain't gonna be nobody in prison. They're gonna look at you and they're gonna be, look at that fucking punk. They call him a bitch and he didn't do shit. Like you're gonna that's your question. You're gonna lose all your respect if somebody call you a bitch, bad words, or disrespect you and you don't do shit. You're fucked.
Especially if you're in a gang because you're a representation of that gang.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the
Yeah.
difference of being in a gang and not being in a gang? What's the differences?
What's the difference? The difference is you get protection. You got homies behind you. If something happen and you and I, like, let's say somebody disrespect me and I start beating the shit out of him, my homie's gonna jump in. Even the cops respect you. Like I was the shot caller of the unit. I was shot caller of the unit. So if one of my homies disrespect a female officer or a male officer, they come to me. They first of all they see who he was. Let's say he's a Paisa, right? So they bring it to my attention, like, hey, my last name is Martinez. So hey, Mr. Martinez, come here. So I take another one of my homies. Say like, hey, come here. The cop want to talk to me. So you come with me because you got to go with somebody to the cop. To the cops. If you go by yourself, a lot of people start talking shit like, oh, he's going by himself. What they talking about? You know what I mean? And then they're gonna think you are a rat or something. So like to avoid all this shit, you bring one of your homies. Hey, come here. We're gonna talk to this cop. So I go over there. What's up, man? And they tell me, hey, one of you people disrespect me. And I was like, what happened? And then he told me his story. And then I go to my homie and he told me his story. If I find out the cop is wrong, I don't do nothing to my guy. But if I find out my homie was wrong, then we bring him to the cell and he gets a regulation.
And what's for the people that don't know, what's that consist of?
A regulation is you get beat up by two homies for 16 seconds because our gain is 16. It's a punishment that you get.
And what is it like being the leader of your organization?
For real, you got to be careful what you do. You got to set the example. You can't get in trouble. You can't disrespect people because they look at you like, oh, he's my shot caller. You know what I mean? So I can't be drinking, getting high, being in the fuck, like shit like that. I can't do none of that shit.
Did you have your own bodyguards?
Yeah, I got my homies there like all the time. They watch over me. When I'm in the unit, they watch over me. When we go to chow, which is mainline, it's not in the unit. You go outside. You walk actually 2 blocks. And all that unit, if we are like 10, 15 homies in the unit, they all wait for me like, what's up, man? You ready? And I was like, yeah, okay, let's go. So we go, all the 15, we walk together, go to mainline to eat,
So you would say, some people would say you have the power of life and death in your hands. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, because when one of my homies like he get arrested and they send him to the prison where I'm at, and he comes to my unit, then we approach him. Hey, what's up, man? Who you around with? And they told me Paisa. I was like, all right, come on. We bring him to the cell. I was like, what's up? You got tattoos? And he's like, yeah, okay, get naked, man. I want to see all your tattoos. Get naked. I want to see your tattoos. So we search for his tattoos, like because it's a lot of enemies. We got enemies. Paisa's got enemies. And if we got sometimes they don't tell you that he's enemy, and he told you, oh, I'm Paisa. So that's a problem. So we check all the tattoos, we check all the paperwork. If he's good, if he's dirty, it depends how dirty he is. If he for a kid, like, oh, he's fucked. Like, then it's my choice to tell my homies, like, put the knife, put the boots. I don't know if you know what's the boot. When you say put the boots on, that's mean that you wear your boots on, and when you beat that shit out of him, you beat him with the boots. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's my
And you,
choice. I can tell my homies put the knife, then they gotta put the knife.
what's something TV gets completely wrong about prison?
They don't tell you the truth.
What's different?
You seen that movie American Me?
Yeah.
Everybody seen that movie American Me. That's close to it, to real life in prison. If nobody knows the movie American Me, you should watch it. I got another story that he's a guy from New Mexico. He was drinking with an Asian guy. They friends, so they were drinking. This happened in Florida, USP Florida. They were drinking. That guy, the New Mexico guy, he runs with the Surenos. They affiliated with the Surenos. We run with the Surenos. So they run with the Surenos, so basically he kind of run with us. So they drinking. They got knives, big ass knife, like a 12-inch, 14-inch knife. So they both got knives, right? So they both doing life in prison. So somehow they was drinking. They got drunk and they start arguing. They start arguing. They start fighting. The homies went in like, hey, what's going on? What's up? And they're like, oh, we're just fighting now. Like, please stop, man. Like, what are you guys doing? So everybody left. Man, like 3 minutes later, that homie from New Mexico, he came out of that cell bleeding, like bleeding. So he fell on the floor. When he fell on the
Damn.
floor, the cops seen it. So they got this, the cops, they got this radio. They push out, it has a red button. They push that shit. And man, like all the cops come running. So everybody come running. The homie was dead. The Asian guy, they were, I don't know how they were fighting. So they put the knives to each other. They started stabbing each other, and the other guy, he hit him in the heart and
Damn.
killed him.
When you seen all this death happen around you, what's that do to your head?
It kind of traumatized. I've seen a lot of things, man. Like, but that, like, killings, I only seen like 10 killings, maybe in my whole 15 years, maybe, like, I'm gonna say like 10 killings. But I've seen a lot of stabbings, a lot of fights, a lot of beat downs.
When people on the outside, they joke around with don't drop the soap and booty bandits. Was that a real thing in there?
Nah, that's a lie. In federal prison, it's a lie because the showers is kind of like a small room, and it has a door. And on top of that, if you are a gay member, you put your homie outside, and he because you can't lock the door, so you get security. So I'm gonna take a shower. I call my homie, hey, you come over, watch my back. I'm gonna take a shower. So he stand at the door. Let's say this is the door, right? So he closed the door, and he stand like this, you know, and he's watching your back.
Did you see people get their manhood taken?
Nah, if you basically in a active when it's an active prison, everybody's a gay member. So when everybody's a gay member, it's hard to do that shit.
You know, like transsexuals, like men that dress up as women, they weren't on the yard.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
they were.
everywhere. They everywhere. Yeah, they
So
everywhere.
what happens if a gang member gets caught talking to one of them in an inappropriate way?
I'm gonna tell you the truth. Like, Hispanics don't allow that shit. If they do it, they do it behind everybody's back. But if we find out he's messing with a punk, he's fucked. He gets beat up, and he can't run the yard no more. He has to go to another yard. But I seen the DCs. The DCs. I got a lot of respect for the DCs, but they do a lot of stupid shit in prison. Like, they mess with punks. They rob their own people. Like, they do a
Did that?
lot of stupid shit. Yeah,
You're talking about a DC car?
the DC car. Yeah, I got a lot of respect for them because they got balls. If they're gonna push that knife, if something happened, they're gonna go and they're gonna push that knife. But they mess with punks. They rob their own people, if it's a female guard walking, they pull their dicks on, like stupid shit, you know. Like we hated that shit, but like it's not our car, so we can't do nothing about it. If they ain't messing with one of my homies or one of my people, we can't do nothing about it, you know.
Yeah, we call that down here a gunning. When you're behind a door and you see a girl CO, we call it gunning.
Yep, they're in prison too. That's how you call it. He's a gunner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your least favorite tray in there? Did you even eat the trays?
Not all the trays. I hate the federal prison food, man. I hate that shit. But um, I had some money and my family, you know, friends. They were sending some, you know, sending their blessings. And plus, in prison, you can do other things.